Similar note, that there's in 2010, a month or two before the tragedy in San Bruno, there was a large pipeline failure in Michigan that dumped nearly 1 million gallons of crude oil into the river there. One of the things that has come out of that is a similar discussion between groups in Michigan for the need for a public voice for pipeline safety in Michigan. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Why a Great Lakes Pipeline Safety Trust? The Pipeline Safety Trust, and that's Bruce, our treasurer, and who's standing in the back of the room talking, I think at last year's conference, talking about how the Pipeline Safety Trust originally began. Basically, the tragedy in Bellingham, when the federal U.S. Justice Department moved forward on prosecuting that case, they were so aghast at the way that company had maintained and operated their pipeline, and to some degree equally aghast at the way the federal regulators at that time had been overseeing that they went to bat for the idea of setting up an independent pipeline safety group to keep an eye on both the regulators and the industry. And they awarded us $4 million out of that settlement, and that's where the Pipeline Safety Trust came from. We still have that $4 million in the bank today because we've traded it as an endowment and we only spend the earnings on it. We don't spend down the endowment, and that's why we can be an independent funded source to do things like this on into the future. The reasons for a Great Lake Pipeline Safety Trust are many. You need a well-funded independent organization that can independently bring up the public's interest. And everybody that's attended one of our conferences sooner or later sees my three-legged stool, so here it comes again. And we really believe that to move pipeline safety is like a three-legged stool, where the industry is one leg, the regulators are one leg, and the public has to have a strong leg too, and that is often missing. So that's where the whole concept of a pipeline safety trust or an independent organization that represents the public comes from. Why a Great Lakes Pipeline Safety Trust? Well, if you look at a map of pipelines in the U.S., you certainly see the Gulf Coast just being a spider maze of pipelines, but the next density of pipelines you see is in the Midwest. Huge numbers of pipelines there, and it's a growing area with lots more pipelines being built or expanded in that area. So there's a need for more discussions about pipeline safety in the Midwest. There also has been significant incidents in the past few years in the Midwest, and there's a huge amount of increase in production area. Pennsylvania, West Virginia, parts of New York soon, and Michigan and Ohio are getting into the whole natural gas production. So there's lots of interest from the public and from local government on pipeline safety issues throughout the Midwest. One of the other issues, just to be perfectly frank, is the current Pipeline Safety Trust is stretched way too thin. We, using our $4 million endowment, can only afford 3 or 4 employees. Everybody in the world calls us now because we are the public in every process that seems to go forward anywhere. I don't know how many committees PHMSA's asked us to be part of. Yeah, lots. Data committees, public awareness committees, technical committees. States are calling and asking us that. And the public calls us all the time wanting our help, and we try to do all those things. And I become the media research person at times where all I do is talk with media. We can't do everything we want to do. We can't serve places like California and the Great Lakes the way we would like to. So the current public voice is stretched way too thin. And the other reason that a Great Lakes Pipeline Safety Trust makes sense at this point is that there's an opportunity right now. Because of the large spill into the Kalamazoo River in 2010, and we don't know the specifics of this because the U.S. Justice Department doesn't share a lot of information when they're dealing with these types of things. But we have had discussions with them, and we know that they're moving forward in enforcement, and it's somewhere probably in the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars of fines that are going to come out of that spill into the river under various things, mainly the Clean Water Act. We believe that that's an opportunity, if you believe like we do, that the public is an important leg on that three-legged stool to take some of that money and turn it back into funding the public to have that opportunity instead of just letting it disappear into the federal treasury where it'll buy half of one airplane or tank or something. Together we can make that happen. Who can make that happen? Well, certainly the federal agencies. The Justice Department has a huge say in how that'll happen. EPA, that's working hand in hand with them over the Clean Water Act, has a huge say in whether that can happen. Other agencies such as PHMSA can weigh in too. The pipeline industry can have a huge effort in making this happen if you agree that that's a good idea. State and local government can have a voice in this. Certainly when the original Pipeline Safety Trust was formed, local government, the state government, the governor of Washington all sent letters of recommendation in favor of the idea of a Pipeline Safety Trust, and that helped move the Justice Department along. Public interest groups throughout the region can, and certainly the general public too. You know, the purpose of such a pipeline safety trust would be to ensure a regional and national pipeline system in which technology, policy, and practice provide the safest possible means for transporting fuel. That's kind of the purpose of the current trust, and it would be more narrowly focused on the Great Lakes area. That can be accomplished through a variety of purpose in its long-term partnerships with local communities, government, and industry. Anybody that wants to push pipeline safety forward, that Great Lakes Pipeline Safety Trust could join with them in helping do that. It could increase accountability for safety and environmental protection, both on all types of pipelines at both the state and federal level. And it could increase public confidence. You know, when you give the public a voice and they can offer opportunities like this and the public starts getting involved, it increases the trust in pipeline safety. What would it cost? You know, Connie's California one, they're talking $5 million. I ask big, $10 million. You know, an endowment of $10 million would create a dedicated office staff in the Great Lakes regions to deal with all those states in the Great Lakes regions. So if you really believe there's a valuable role for the public in pipeline safety, then you can help make this a reality. A small group of public interest groups has already been talking with EPA, talking with the Justice Department. We have a plan for this, and we love support from all those people I talked with. You can get a hold of me if you want to help lend that support. And we'd like to thank you in advance for your support on the idea of a Great Lakes Pipeline Safety Trust. And thank you. Go ahead, applaud. I love the idea too.